Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. This is Richard Schulman, your MAPS coach from Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us on this free webinar through MAPS. We have a really exciting half-hour program today. What I want to do is walk you through our group call. So I'm going to give you a quick overview on the group call. I'm going to show you what we do in the 5-week call, and hopefully you like what we have to say, and we'd love to have you sign up, and you can do the whole 5 one-hour class session. So today, what's really important to me in the group call and in the webinar that we're doing today is I really want to show you guys that we have a lot of value to add and that we're going to really teach you things that are actionable. And so the best way I think to do that is to actually give you a few actionable things today. So I'm going to give you a few things that we do in the class as a little teaser. If you like what we're doing, I think it's great. You should sign up for the class. And if you're looking for something different, let me know, because we do have quite a long class. I'm only giving you a little sample of part of it. So the class is called Marathon Lead Generation and Conversion. My conception of the class, the reason why we do the class, is this started from a live class that I've done many times. And the idea is we wanted to really help people at the most important part of the real estate transaction, and that's getting the lead and converting the lead to appointment. If you can't get the lead and if you can't convert the lead to appointment, then there's nothing else to do, right? It doesn't matter how good you are at showing a home or how good your listing presentation is or how good your photography is. You have to meet people and you have to convert them to an appointment. So we started this a while back, and it was a live class, like I mentioned. It was really focused on really the mechanics and systems of calling, and we expanded it to really include the systems and scripting. So the scripting that you're going to need to get people in your world and then in front of you in a live meeting. So here's a little background on me. I want you guys to know, who I am and why I'm valid to give you this training. I've been at Keller Williams. August was 10 years, so I'm actually rounding the corner towards 11 years now. I'm definitely a training junkie. As a team, we spent probably $25,000, $30,000 on various training last year. Our team has sold over $500 million in properties on over 1,000 transactions, and right now we have 17 people on the team. Here's a couple other things that I'm doing, and there's a reason why I'm sharing this with you. I'm a rental property owner. I'm investing in market centers. I'm a groups coach and an individual coach. I have a construction business, and I just added one person yesterday to my profit share tree, so 126 now. And the important point about that is to understand that all of this starts with lead generation and conversion, right? Everything on there, every opportunity I have, everything that I'm involved in, from owning rental properties to having this call to my team, all starts with generating and converting leads. And that lead can be as simple as meeting someone who wants to buy or sell a home, to meeting someone who has a property that they know of that's being sold that might be a good rental, to knowing, being able to generate and convert people from prospective agents into people in my downline and people on my team as salespeople, right? So the point is that everything we do is lead generation and conversion, no matter where you are in your business or what you're doing. And the really important thing to understand from there is it all stops without lead generation and conversion, right? If we stop generating leads, if we stop converting leads into closings, and whatever that closing is, then our business stops, right? Our business slows down and then stops. If we don't consistently work at improving the way that we're generating and converting leads, improving our systems, improving our scripting through practice, reevaluating our processes for obtaining and converting leads, if we're not constantly tinkering with that process and improving it, our results will decline, right? Either from our own attrition or through our competition getting better. So what I'm doing constantly is I'm constantly reevaluating how I do my own generation and conversion and how my team does it too. This slide deck that you're looking at is the third version of the slide deck for this one promo webinar, and I've run this webinar probably 10 times before, and each time I change the slide deck around, right? Because I constantly want to make it better. I want to make it more efficient, more effective for you as the recipient of the slide deck. And we're doing that with every aspect of our team. So as soon as this call is done, I have my MAPS coaching call with my MAPS individual coach. I'm constantly working on improving all these systems, and that's what we're going to work on today. So today, here's your goal. I want to give you a quick tip to increase your call volume. I want to give you a couple scripts to increase your conversion, and I want to give you some mindset thoughts to increase your purpose. That's really the broad strokes of what we do in this class, right? We really want to work on how do we increase the number of outbound dials we're making, how do we make those outbound dials better, and how do we get really excited about making those calls, right? That's the entire point of what we do, right? That takes you all the way from getting your license to having your first appointment. So here's a challenge. Sorry, that's a long slide. I'll leave it up there so you guys can read it. After this call, I want you guys to sit down for an hour and make phone calls. Call your leads, call your prospects. If you don't have leads or prospects, just pick up your phone and you have saved numbers. Call and ask for an appointment. You need to be making a minimum of 20 dials per hour. Now, originally, that was the key point of this call and this class was to improve your outbound dials. A lot of our people are now on auto dialers. Our team uses auto dialers exclusively. So we're going to be doing a 30-minute auto dialer training with one of my lead agents in the class. But for now, I want you to focus on making calls and making appointments. See where you're at, right? It's really important that you track numbers because if you track numbers, then you can see how you're doing. We can't track our progress unless we track where we are. The goal ultimately from this class is that you should be making a minimum of 25 purposeful calls and an average of at least 1.5 appointments per hour. And I know half an appointment is a weird number, but I think it should be more than 1. 2 is a lot, but I think if you do 2 hours of calling a day, which is our minimum standard on the team, that you should be making a minimum of 50 outbound dials and 3 appointments every day. If you do that, you're going to succeed in this business. If you can't do that, you got to be really incredible at something else, right? If you can't sit down and make these calls and appointments, you have to be really incredible at something else or have some amazing clients, right? But this is the core of our business. So I'm going to give you a couple quick ideas here about how we're going to increase our outbound call volume, right? It's really simple stuff. The key thing with coaching is this is all stuff that you probably have heard before or seen before. The difference that I'm going to give to you in this class is that I'm going to organize it in a way that you haven't seen before, and I'm going to hold you accountable to results. And that's the really important thing, is that by coming and sitting here for 5 hours, doing the homework every week, and then implementing solid habits for the rest of your real estate business, that you're going to change the way you do things. So the first thing is, before you start making your calls, I want you to really think about calling as your Super Bowl, right? You're coming to play, you've got 2 hours on the field, and you've got to be really sharp. And you have to have everything ready to go. So have your numbers ready to go, have your desk clear, have all your problems solved, or put your problems away. You know, right now my phone is upside down on the desk. I'm not looking at Facebook, I'm not looking at text messages. If I did that, you would probably be pretty unhappy with me. You probably wouldn't like this call, and you'd be able to tell that my effort wasn't there, my purpose wasn't there. So when I do this call, you know, 10:30, about 30 minutes before the call, I start getting ready for the call. I get my coffee, so I have something to drink. I have 2 screens up so I can see the slide deck. Everything's ready to go so I can give you the best half hour possible. That's my commitment to you. That has to be your commitment to your clients. The next thing is, if you don't use an auto dialer, think of yourself as a human auto dialer. Human auto dialer was one of the working titles for the class. We were thinking about what that would mean to call the class that. If you're not on an auto dialer, you should be, by the way. If you're still nervous about it or you're new and you don't want to make the investment, I can understand that for a little bit. But an auto dialer is a key piece of technology that will make your life easier. It will increase your outbound number of calls, make you a much happier and more productive agent. The key thing if you're not using an auto dialer is you want to stop the pauses, stop the breaks, stop the interruptions. So don't stop. Don't stop anything. Just make your phone calls over and over and over again and track your numbers. Our average new agent on the team here comes in and they're probably doing between 12 and 16 dials an hour when they start, and we get them onto the auto dialer and we're doing somewhere between 50 and 60 outbound dials an hour. And the way I want you to think of it is that if you're not doing that, you're cheating yourself, right? When you come to work, you're costing yourself the opportunity of doing something else, whether it's being with your family or going, out and doing something fun or doing something more financially productive. So what I want you to do is develop a level of intensity that when you see this and you think, I'm not making my dials, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm cheating myself somewhere else in my life. And I'm very serious about that I think that every minute here I'm at work, I'm 2 miles from the beach, I'm 2 miles from my kids. I could go either direction and do that. When I come to work, I've got to really bring it and bring effort and purpose so I can get the most out of it. Now, here's something I want you to think about. If you're not making those dials, and you probably aren't, if we could just get you to make 10 more calls an hour, and you're doing 2 hours of calling a day, that's our minimum standard, 5 times a week, we can make 5,000 calls more every year. And the question I have for you is, if I could show you a way to make 5,000 more calls, would you make more money in your business? Now, the call's muted, so you can't answer, but think about it. All right, so we're not doing this, right? We're not thinking about our calls in this way, or most of us aren't. I certainly wasn't, early on in my career, and it wasn't until I really got involved with Keller Williams and the training that I really started thinking critically about why we do things and how we do things. And every year that goes on, I think about things in a different way, and I try to increase my level of passion and intensity. We're not doing it for a certain reason, and the reason is that we're not connected to our goals. So one of the things we talk about in the call is really connecting to our goals. And being connected to your goal is going to solve all of your problems. It's going to solve your problem of, I don't want to make phone calls. I have call reluctance. I don't want to make those last 3 phone calls. You know what? I made 46 calls. I'm going to go home, right? If we're connected to our goals, we get excited about it, and our attitude changes. We say, well, I made 50, but I'm going to make 5 more because I'm feeling good and I have some people I can call still. And so we'll talk about goal setting and mindset in the call because it's really important to get past the hang-ups, to get past the difficulty of the job. We really want to make sure that we understand that our daily activity of making calls connects to a bigger goal. And we set 1-year goals, we set 3-year goals, we set big goals, they're lifetime goals. And it's a very abstract topic, but if we start doing a better job of setting goals, it makes everything else easier, right? The purpose of the phone call is not just to hit 50 dials in a day. The purpose of the phone call is because each phone call is a small stepping stone to my bigger overall goal, whatever that is. It's a vacation, it's a house, it's a car, it's a college fund. Whatever it is, each phone call is a small stepping stone. For me, it's rental property. I love rental property. I have an addiction to buying rental property, and every phone call I make gets me closer to buying another door. If you don't have goals, you need to start working on them, and you need to talk to your team leader as well about really setting some very specific and clear goals. Now, a different way to look at the calling besides the goals is the value of the call, right? Now, the value of the call will ultimately convert to your goal since most goals end up being financial, right? If we all had $1 billion, we wouldn't have a lot of problems that we have now. We'd have much better and more interesting problems, I think, or hopefully. So I decided sort of arbitrarily that every outbound dial I make is worth $5,000 or is worth $100, and then if I make 50 dials a day, it's worth $5,000. Because my proposition is that I can sit down, make 50 dials, and get at least 1/2 of a contract, and our average commissions here, that came out to around $5,000. That I feel like if I sit down and do 2 hours of solid lead generation, I can get halfway to a closed sale. So I would encourage you to think in your head, what is each dial worth to you, right? What's your average price point? What's your number of transactions? And if you don't have a track record yet or you're uncertain, just set an arbitrary number. Each call is worth $50. Doesn't matter your price point. It doesn't matter your average commission or anything else. Just say each call is worth at least $50. And the next time you make 46 calls, you're going to think real hard about making those next 4 calls because they're worth $200. So this is exactly how I run my team here. We did $100 million in sales each of the last 2 years. We'll do more than that this year. And we work on the exact same principles. And we review the exact same principles over and over and over again. Right? It doesn't get more complicated because if you can't master this, then there's nothing else that really matters. All right, so I'm going to talk about scripting, right? So we talked a little about mindset. We talked about some tips for making your calls more productive and effective. I want to talk to you guys about scripting because if you get people on the call, and if you're actually making the calls, you get people on the phone, you need to know what to do to convert them, right? So if you can improve your outbound dials, if you can improve your purpose and mindset to help increase your outbound dials, now you have a conversion problem. So one of the interesting things to me is that people always ask, what scripts do we use? And we don't use scripts that are any more complicated than what you use or what you've heard. All of our scripts come from taking someone else's script, internalizing it for us, and then modifying it for what we're doing, right? Changing it for our personality, our market, or our type of client, right? So there's no magic in scripting. That's really important to understand. But there is a way to script better. And we're going to spend 2 full hours in the call. Call 3 is buyer scripting. Call 4 is seller scripting for appointment setting. We'll spend 2 full hours breaking down scripting. And the way I want you to think of it is I'm not going to give you a script to memorize. I'll give that to you in the Facebook group anyways, and you can have that, and there's no specialty there. The specialty is how you think about the scripting, right? So we don't want to be asking our clients for appointments. We don't want to be begging our clients for meetings. We don't want to be passive in what we're doing. The scripting that we use on the team is what we call tell, don't ask. And we'll spend 2 hours breaking this down. But I'll give you a quick overview today. So here's the script with the buyer. And what we're normally doing when we talk to our buyer clients is we're saying, do you mind seeing this property? Do you want to tour the property? Well, what day is good for you? And we're asking a lot of passive questions, and we're not being assertive. I want you to think of yourself as the expert, right? If you go to your lawyer or accountant or doctor, then they're going to say, this is the course of action. You've come to me for professional advice that's highly paid, and here is what you're going to do next, right? Your doctor never says to you, well, what do you think we should do? Or do you mind coming in? They say no, come in, or do this, or do that. Same thing with your lawyer and accountant, right? Here is the thing that you need to do to accomplish what you want to accomplish, right? Think of your clients the same way. You're no different than any of those professionals. You're dealing with much larger dollar values in most cases, and hopefully you'll be highly compensated for your work. So the scripting we use is we tell the clients that we're going to meet with them. And guess what? They really don't say no because we're not giving them the option to say no. So the script is to the buyer, first speak to the lender and get pre-approved, then I'll meet with you, and then we can tour homes. I'm dictating to the buyer what's going to happen, right? I'm not saying, well, let's meet for a buyer meeting and then talk to a lender, but I'll start touring homes with you right away, right? Buyer calls in and says, I want to see some homes, and you intake them, and you say, well, are you pre-approved? No. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And then we give them the close. So first speak to the lender and get pre-approved, and then I'll meet with you, and then we can tour homes, right? We're not asking the buyer for their input. We're not asking for their direction. We're telling them what we're going to be doing. It works the same way with the sellers, right? When the seller calls and says, I'm curious about selling my home, or want information about the marketplace, or what's happening in the market, what did that house sell for? The answer is, I'm going to come to your house and tell you what the market's like, right? We're not doing an appointment over the phone. Phone calls are to set appointments, not to have appointments. So I'm going to say to the seller, the best thing for me to do is to come to your home and give you a personalized evaluation. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better? And this may not sound different to you, right? You may not think, well, this is nothing new, this is nothing exciting, I've heard a variation. Words are very important. The way that we use words is very important. In this sentence here, I'm telling them I'm going to come over to their home, and the decision I'm asking them for is not whether or not I come to their home, it's when do they want me to come to their home. And by making this subtle change in dialogue, and by changing your focus to say I'm going to make the appointment, I'm not going to receive the appointment or beg for the appointment, the sellers or the buyers know that you're in charge, that you're a professional, and they're going to be more likely to meet with you. By using this type of scripting, you're going to close at a higher rate. I'll give you one more for the buyers to give you a sense of what we do. And then we break this down throughout the class. We're going to break this down over 2 calls. There's also a lot of material. We have a Facebook group for members of the class, and we put a lot of support materials in here as well. I understand that your time is valuable and that you're making an investment in the class. So what I do is I try to keep the classes on the phone calls very directed and focused, and we do a lot of support material and homework in the Facebook group to add on. Right? The class works because it keeps you accountable to doing work and to growing your mindset and your business. So here's a tell, don't ask for the buyers, right? So the buyer calls and says, Richard, I want to tour a home, or I saw your sign, can we see the property? And so instead of saying, instead of asking them permission, I just tell them, yes, we'll take a look at that property, and then afterwards I'll show you a couple more, right? I'm not asking, I'm telling them what we're going to do, because we know we don't want to show 1, we want to show 3. Right? If I get them in the car, I want to make three showings, not 1 showing. And again, the decision point I'm leaving the buyer with is what time is best, right? What time is best is the question that they have to decide. So we're subtly programming their brain to only respond to the question. The question is, what time is best, not do you want to meet with me, do you want to see more homes, can I give you a market evaluation on your property, right? Okay. We also, it's not on the slide deck here, I'll give you a little bit more of a preview of what we do. We also talk about controlling conversations, right? So I mentioned before the point of a phone call is to make an appointment, not to have an appointment. A challenge I see a lot of agents doing is they're having their full appointment over the phone, right? You're not wanting to have a buyer appointment on the phone. The point of the phone call is to make a face-to-face appointment. And let me tell you why that's important. 20 years ago, there were travel agents. It was a big business, and travel agents made good money brokering travel to people. You guys all know this. Now you all use Expedia and Hotels.com and those types of sites. Travel agents disappeared because their job became automated. If our job becomes automated, we can be replaced. So our business is and always has to be a face-to-face appointment business, right? We never want this business to be anything but a face-to-face appointment, person-to-person business. Otherwise, they can replace us with videos and artificial intelligence. So it's very important that I'm not, when I talk to that client and they want to talk about selling their home, I do my intake and we go over how to do the intake in the call. We give you all the questions. It's very important that I then take that time, and instead of having the appointment, I make an appointment to meet and talk to them later, right? It's very hard to sign a buyer-broker agreement or a listing agreement over the phone. It's a lot easier in person. So we talk about how to set appointments. We're going to talk about how to break apart objections into manageable chunks, and we do a lot of questioning. Now, it's really important, write this down if you can, questions control the conversation. So one thing that I've learned as a MAPS coach is by asking questions, I can get people to self-discovery, and I can get better answers to my questions, and I'm in charge. The person asking the questions is in charge of the conversation and can dictate where the conversation goes. So I want to teach you how to take charge of your calls by asking questions of the client and by leading them down the path to appointment. And I'll end with a quick anecdote on that topic. I just signed a listing for $1.6 million, actually $1.699 here in LA, which is quite a nice commission. And the seller told me on the intro phone call where he called me, he said, Richard, I'm thinking about selling my home. I said, great. I went through my intake questions, and he told me he's looking at some other agents. And then he said, but Richard, I'm probably going to hire you. And I said, well, that's great. I understand why you would hire me, but why would you say that? And he said, well, the other 3 brokers I talked to all just made an appointment and hung up. And you've been on the phone with me for 10 minutes asking me questions. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, I have to ask questions. I have to know what you're looking to accomplish. And so the point of the story is, and this just happened last week, it's a 100% true story. The point of that is by asking questions, I showed interest, I developed rapport, I found out information like who I'm competing against, and I was able to develop that relationship that the seller understands I'm a professional doing my job, right? So I'm going to teach you how to do all this within the class. So let me walk you through this. I've given you guys a few things that will definitely improve your business. So if we never talk again, you can definitely improve. Let me walk you through the whole class start to finish. And we're going to do 2 more of these webinars with different topics throughout the week as well. So we're going to work first on increasing your outbound call volume. If we can get you onto an auto dialer, we can probably triple your outbound call volume. Then we're going to improve your conversion rate by teaching you how to focus on setting appointments using powerful scripting. We're going to develop a lot of good systematic habits, and that will improve all facets of your business. We're going to cut our time waste on poor lead conversion and cut our time waste on poor follow-up. What you guys don't realize, when you do an open house, you spend 5 hours on a Sunday doing an open house. If you don't make a sale out of that open house, or at least one solid appointment, it's a waste of time. And we're going to work on cutting down our loss through wasted time by better follow-up systems. Everything that we do in the class is exactly what I teach on my team, and my team takes the class with me. Some of my team members participate in the calls. They train on aspects that they're good at, or they help me with the scripting. So everything we do here is what we do on the team. We've sold over 150 homes for each of the last 5 years and $100 million in volume in the last 2 years. So if it works for us, hopefully you can see that it'll work for you. And this is the 5 calls that we have. The first class is improving your calling. The second class, a lot of people find surprisingly interesting, is the systems. I'm going to give you the exact system we use for follow-up, how and when to call, text, and email each person that comes to your door. In the third call, we're going to teach you how to set buyer scripting. In the fourth call, seller scripting. Now, keep in mind, you're not going to learn in one call. I'm going to give you all the information you need. I'm going to show you how to take notes and how to implement these into your business, and you get access to the recorded calls through the website. In the last call, my lead agent, Erin, will join, and she'll teach you how to use auto dialers at a very high level. And then we'll talk about mindset and value proposition. Value proposition is what we call a quick hitter. It's your elevator pitch. It's when you need to give a really quick sentence about why they want to meet with or hire you. That's what you have to have ready to go. So that's the 5 calls. We also do a bonus call on scripting just for fun. So we'll give you access to that. It's an hour on scripting. So if you sign up in the next 2 hours, and I'll give you the login on the next slide, we're going to give you our PDF script card. So I have a double-sided one-sheet script card that we use. We print it out and laminate it. We'll give you the PDF for that. It has basically all of your core objection and objection handles that you need to have readily available to you. We'll also give you access to that bonus script webinar I mentioned. So we'll be doing an hour scripting call sometime within the class period. And then just to give you an idea, I mentioned at the beginning, what I spend on coaching and training, why it's important. I spend over $10,000 taking my team to family reunion. We spend probably about $5,000 on Mega Camp. We spent over $2,000 on group calls last year. I'm in MAPS coaching, and I have a full-time training director on the team. So I'm asking you for a small investment, just to give you an idea of what I spend to get my team up to the level that we are. It's definitely worth it. So there's the information on the class. I would love if you signed up. You can also, if it's easier, go to my website, marathonconversion.com, which will more easily link you to that same site. So that's kwrievents.kw.com/MLG4 or marathonconversion.com. For $149, we give you all 5 classes. You'll have access to the Facebook group. You'll have access to all the materials in the Facebook group, and I do answer all the questions that come to the Facebook group. The regular webinars are question and answer, so you'll be able to answer questions. I know today it's muted because we had over 1,200 people sign up. So that's the whole webinar. I really appreciate you guys being on. We will send out a recording of this for your if you want to watch it again. I would love if you sign up for the class. We'll do this 2 more times next week, and we're going to start next Friday, 11 Central, 9 Pacific, noon Eastern, and we'll be talking about how to increase our outbound call volume. So thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a great Friday and a great weekend.